up, y'all, and welcome to the Jack Vita Show. I'm your host, Jack Vita, here on February 18th, 2020. It's a Tuesday morning, and we have a bonus episode today. No sports, but I do have a very special guest who's going to join me in a little bit. If you're looking for sports content, I recorded a college basketball podcast with former Northwestern women's basketball star Maggie Lyon. We recorded that last week, and I will also be podcasting later this week on college basketball and the latest in terms of spring training and the Houston Astros, everything that's going on in the world of baseball. So be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, though, I have a bonus episode today. I have a very special guest who's going to join me on Season 7 of Survivor Pearl Islands. There was a man by the name of Jonny Fairplay, and Jonny Fairplay set the world on fire when he and his friend created a lie at the loved one visit that his grandmother had died. Everybody was fooled by it, to the point that CBS called up Johnny's home to check in and see how the family was doing, only to find out that his grandmother was actually fine. In fact, she answered the phone. We will get into one of the biggest moments in reality TV, how it came to be, and everything of that nature. Also, we'll talk about what it's like to be a reality TV villain, who is the real Jonny Fairplay, and what I'm most excited to talk about with him today. Johnny's life has changed a lot over the last few years. He actually became a Christian and got baptized very recently. We will talk about his spiritual journey and the transformation that has taken place in his life. At this moment, I would like to welcome in the man of the hour. He's a two-time Survivor player. He's a Survivor Hall of Famer and an all-time reality TV bad boy, Jonny Fairplay. How are you doing, Jonny?
Oh, wow. Thanks for the accolades. I think they all check off correctly.
What, does anything sound wrong?
Well, I don't count my second season of Survivor, but that's okay.
We'll definitely have to hear about what went down there, because I've heard all kinds of rumors over the years. We'll get to that a little later. But let's talk about this dead grandma lie, which really is still one of the biggest moments in Survivor history. And I gotta say, by the way, hey, congrats on being in the Survivor at 40 special.
I got 1 minute and 7 seconds, which is actually more than anyone else in the special.
Oh.
So I guess that makes me special.
Yeah, it was really choppy how they did that. They went from you to Survi on the balance beam. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah. It was kind of strange. Like I was a little nervous because the show started and they show they're like 20 years ago, and then they show a TV guide cover, which I was actually on that cover, and they chopped me off.
Really?
And I was like, oh no. I'm on the bad list. I was like, this is going to be the longest hour of my life, and I'm not going to like it. And, fast forward, 30 seconds, and then they're like, and then most notorious villain in the history of the game. And I'm like, all right, I'll take those accolades. So, because, I know where I rate myself. And so to see where they rate me feels, validating, I guess.
Yeah.
For the record, I think Russell Hantz is a bigger bad guy than me. So, but I also believe he's a real life sociopath. So, I feel I'm a better person at playing the character of a villain, whereas, as I said, he is a real life sociopath.
Yeah, no, you've had plenty of interactions with him over the years.
Yeah. And we're, I guess I could use the word friends. We're I'm not scared of him. So, but I keep him at arm's length because I'm also one of the smartest survivors ever. So,
yeah, you and Rob C.
Well, he's by definition the smartest player to never win. I'm curious if he's still the smartest player to never win with the fact that Stephen Fishback is on this planet. So I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, you're going to have to hash that out with him. I'm sure you'll be going on Rap this season.
Yeah, I'll be on. I actually know when I'm going to be on, but it's kind of a secret.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about your big dead grandma lie. I was texting people. People were telling me questions they wanted me to ask you, and I got so many questions about that. How did it all come to be? Where did this idea come from?
I had never seen Survivor before I was cast. Never. Like I take that back. I probably watched 15 seconds of the first finale, and I said, "These people are stupid," and then I turned the channel. So that was it. So then once I was cast, I was like, well, I am smart. Let me learn the game. That's I think the smartest thing you could do if you're one of 16 people playing a game for $1 million. Just take every advantage possible you have going into it. And I think step one, learn the game. So I'm watching the first season, and you have idiots like they're voting alphabetical order, and I'm just like, okay, this is worthless. So I've never seen all of season 1. So
wow,
there's no reason for me to. Or there wasn't at the time. And then to go back, it's so slow watching it nowadays. I'm just like, I don't care. So fast forward to season 2, the alliance is established thanks to Richard Hatch. And actually, General Lewis will take credit for it, but that's a fight between those two, not me. And so anyway, season 2, I'm actually learning the game. Still, relatively slow pace because there's an alliance right out of the gate, and that's pretty much it. That's the season in a nutshell. So fast forward to season 3, and you have Lex Vandenberg, who was the beginnings of how to pattern the game of Jonny Fairplay. So I'm watching that. Next, fast forward to, I always confuse. I can't remember what was next, either Thailand or Marquesas.
Marquesas.
Okay, so Marquesas, you have Boston Rob. Casting's calling me the entire time that I'm watching these, and they're like, "Have you got to Boston Rob yet? Have you got to Boston Rob yet? Have you got to Boston Rob yet?" So I finally get to Boston Rob, and they're like, "That's what we want from you." And I was just like, "Well, that dude didn't even make the jury. He sucks." But I got it. I mean, so in addition to they didn't have CBS All Access back then. So I'm watching, I had gone on eBay and I ordered every episode on VHS, and the guy that recorded it had every early show interview in which the people explained why they felt they were voted out and stuff. Well, also during Marquesas, Boston Rob had his own commercial. It's just like, and just when they think they've seen everything, there's Boston Rob. I mean, I'm just like, oh my God. So I'm sitting there watching, and I'm like, I want a Jonny Fairplay commercial. That's what I want. So I'm just like, I get what they're looking for, but I know what I'm looking for. I want my own commercial, and I got it. So I got the little Johnny doesn't play fair. So a whole commercial just for me with my name on the screen and everything, just like Boston Rob. So I was happy. So anyway, I'm watching all these seasons in preparation. So every time they would get to the Loved Ones Challenge, I would cry. Just why, I thought it was very emotional. I got it. I understood it. And I'm just like, well, there's this black hole in my chest where most people have a heart. And I'm just like, if this can affect me, someone that doesn't have a heart, just imagine how this affects other people. So I'm like, well, I have to be able to use this. So fast forward to Survivor Amazon, which is the season right before mine, and they have the food auction in which everyone loses on purpose or at the end to allow Jenna Maraska to get a letter from home because her mother was dying. So I'm like, okay, well, what's more sympathetic than a dying mom, a dead grandmother? So I just just using what I had learned over the course of 3 weeks of binge watching all these episodes of Survivor. It's just, using what I knew that I could.
So you had your best bud, Thunder D, come out, and he says, I'm painting the picture for those who might not remember this scene. Sure. He comes out and you say, it seems like he forgot what he was supposed to tell you at first, and then you said, how's Grandma?
No, not true.
Okay.
So I was Rowdy Roddy Piper, the wrestler. I was his personal assistant before Survivor. Okay?
Yeah.
So Thunder D comes around the corner, does the Ric Flair strut, horribly, mind you, and then comes up to me and hugs me and whispers to me, Roddy Piper got fired from SmackDown.
Oh. And
my reply was, this is all being whispered. I don't give an F. Tell me my grandma died. So no, he was still planning on doing there was a little reluctancy and a little worry because of the other people, but he's a scumbag like I was, so I wasn't overly worried. But no, he was just excited to tell me Roddy Piper got fired from SmackDown. So that's the awkwardness that you see there.
Yeah, we laugh a lot. My family, we've watched the clip so many times over the years. We love the delivery of, she died, dude.
yeah, dude. Nothing sells a death more than the word dude to follow it. Thanks.
So, what didn't we see from that moment? Because I would think that lasted longer than we saw on the TV.
Yeah, that went about 5 minutes. So you see, that happens. They go to commercial. I mean, they don't tell us on the island, we're going to commercial. Reset. So, no, what you don't see is he says that, and, and I do I can only hope to get more information to see what happens. And then I pretty much throw a fit. I think Sandra says something and so I'm pretty sure it was Sandra. So, and people give Sandra credit for seeing through the lie. That's not true. She didn't. She just didn't care. So it wasn't that she was like, oh, I think he made this up to gain some. No, she was like, I don't care if his grandma's dead or not. I want to see my husband, and that was it. So no, she did not crack the Da Vinci Code of reality TV. She had no clue either. She just didn't. She has no. She's not nice. So, I mean, say kudos to Sandra. When she goes out there to play Survivor, she goes out there to play Survivor. She doesn't go out there to make friends. She doesn't go. She wants $1 million and possibly see her husband. That's it.
Yeah.
So I go off on a big tangent. I'm just like, look, my grandmother raised me. I don't even know, is there still time for me to get out, to go to the funeral, blah, blah, blah. So they're you see people scattering because at any given time on a challenge like that, there's a couple hundred people, hidden, all around. And so you see people scrambling and they're on satellite phone trying to see if they can get me out for the funeral still. And of course my grandmother answers the phone.
Yeah. So you had CBS fooled.
Yeah. So but that's the main thing you miss. Just me, I really, really need this information to know what happened. I think this is ridiculous. Why can't my friend, I don't want them to, I'm just because it's a fine line. I don't want them to go to say, well, Dan, just go ahead and tell him, what happened with his grandmother, blah, 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 because then I don't win.
Right.
The whole thing is I want to win. I want to create that moment and I want the others to suffer, and all those things happen. So, but I had to walk that balance beam of, I need to stress the importance to everyone. I don't need production to fold, and I need to create that moment.
So when you talked to Thunder D, how did you pitch this to him?
Oh, I just told him, of all my scumbag friends, he's the biggest scumbag I know. So, yeah. And he was the only friend I had that actually watched Survivor. So, like, most of my friends, hated it or didn't watch.
Interesting. If you hadn't come up with that idea, would he still have been your loved one?
Yeah, probably.
I think it was the first time that someone had their friend on the show. I think that shows also if he was going to be out there regardless how close you guys were.
Well, I mean, people asked starting, day 2, who's your loved one? And I'm like, mine's my grandmother, but CBS made me list a backup. And so starting night 2 at night, they were praying for my grandmother.
Man.
So when my buddy came around the corner, most of them didn't even need the prodding.
Oh.
They knew something happened to my grandmother. Yeah, that had been established day 2.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, and the best is so once Thursday comes, we have the 24 hours, and the next day, Thursday's like, what are you going to tell these people? I'm just like, I don't feel like figuring out a story. I don't feel like sticking to the story. I don't feel like worrying about any details. So once people I'm just like, I got the answers I needed. I don't want to talk about it. And that was it.
Smart.
Yeah.
So you were able to leverage that in the game. How much do you think it helped you? Because you came very close to winning.
I mean, I would have won.
Yeah.
I took the 2 most worthless players in the history of Survivor to the end. So one of them's name is Lil, and the other one's name, shocker, Sandra Diaz-Twine.
Why didn't Lil pick you?
Because Lil didn't think she could beat either one of us. So she would rather give the money to another mother than someone that she perceived would blow it on drugs, women, and alcohol.
That makes sense. I had heard that rumor over the years. I wanted to get your perspective on that.
She got to play Survivor God, which, I think is a slap in the face to the people that, play Survivor. It's not, like, if you think you have a better chance of beating me, then bring it. But she didn't. So as I said, she didn't earn her way to the end. I took her to the end. Sandra Diaz-Twine did not earn her way to the end. I took her to the end.
Yeah.
So it's not me being, braggadocious. Those 2 didn't make decisions that got them to the end. I made the decisions to take. No one took me as a goat. I drug 2 goats to the end for slaughter.
How close was that final challenge that Lil ended up beating you in?
It wasn't. I went almost 2 hours, but she goes to yoga. I didn't.
Yeah.
I was a fan of Yoda, but that was as close as I got. So no, that's, I run. I have another half. I've run multiple half marathons. I have another one coming up. I just signed up for another one in April. So you want to run, I'll probably beat you. If you want wrestling trivia, I'll probably beat you. If you want to play tennis, I'll do okay. So I'll be either one of them. So, there's plenty of things that I excel at. So, but yoga is that was not in my wheelhouse. Guess what? Guess who's done yoga since then? Guess who, if you want to bring that same challenge back, I would imagine I beat Lil this time. So, but that wasn't. I can only do what I can do. So,
yeah.
And I think if they had it to do over again, they would have chosen a different final challenge. I think they knew they wanted me to win. So if they knew Lil knew yoga, they would not have done that challenge. So trust me, there's nothing that they wanted less than those 2 final 2.
Something I'm curious of is, had you actually won, because you were so close, How might this season have been edited differently?
I think the edit was there. I mean, the issue is no one in the history of reality television that was a bad guy had ever wanted to be a bad guy or embrace that role. Even Richard Hatch, didn't see himself as a bad guy. So when I went in day one, I'm like, I'm the bad guy. They're just like, what is he doing?
Were you wanting to be despised?
Yeah, I wanted to be the biggest bad guy in the history of reality television. Like, that was my heroes are Roddy Piper and Ric Flair, Andy Kaufman. Those are my heroes.
Yeah.
I rooted for the Joker before it was cool to root for the Joker. I lived in a world in which everyone liked Batman.
Yeah. What was the feedback? How did it change your life in the sense of the reactions of people seeing this moment? Because I know a lot of people were very unhappy about that.
Yeah. It's crazy because, you look at season 39 and you had the whole issue with the potential Me Too thing with Dan Philo. And then you have, the girl, Missy and Elizabeth, who were accused of weaponizing Me Too against him and using it to vote out another female, and they were attacked on social media. I've spoken with some of them and some of the others of the cast of 39, and it was a pretty crappy set of circumstances. It was almost the gift of the Magi. They wanted this, they had this dream of playing Survivor, and then it turned into a nightmare. So I understand how difficult it was in their lives. However, 2003, Jonny Fairplay does the biggest lie in the history of reality television. It's the biggest bad guy in the history of reality television. The New York Post, the day Saddam Hussein was captured, front page of the New York Post is the title is "The Most Hated Man in America," a picture of me. Saddam Hussein is on page 2. Okay? I had to change my number twice. I received death threats every day. They said over 20 people sent feces to CBS, attention to me. I've been knocked unconscious in public by complete strangers,
Wow.
I believe 4 times.
Oh my gosh.
People have walked up, punched me as hard as they could in the face to knock me unconscious. 4 times.
Wow.
So I'm sorry that, someone said something mean on Twitter and that it hurts your feelings to press the block button.
So were you...
you know what hurts me? Emergency room bills. They hurt me.
Were you prepared for all of that? Because were you expecting it? Was it worse than you thought it would be?
No, I invited all that into my life, and I wouldn't change any of it. Once again, but Roddy Piper was stabbed 3 times. He was shot. It goes with the territory. So, reality TV is real, right?
Yeah.
I've done 70 television shows since my first Survivor. So when I was a little kid, people asked me, they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And my answer was famous.
And it worked out.
Yeah, I knew it would.
You mentioned this a little bit. You wanted to create this character of Jonny Fairplay. How did you come up with the name? What was your vision for this character? And how different is that Jonny Fairplay that was on TV from your given name, John Dalton, and now you are Jonny Fairplay? What's the big difference there?
There used to be a huge difference. I feel it's kind of morphed into they're the same person now. So I look back at Jonny Fairplay 2003 Survivor Pro Islands, my first show. I see this character on television, at the time perceived as I think the two biggest words you use to describe him would be liar and villain. But I think with a 2020 lens, I think the 2 words you would use to describe that same character are innovator and legend.
Yeah.
So, this wasn't real life. I was playing a game for $1 million. So my grandmother didn't die because I said she died. My grandmother still drives around Danville, Virginia in a Ford hybrid with a license plate that says Dead Gma. He's okay. So I'm sorry, I have, there's a ton of religious people that have attacked me over the years saying that, I should go to hell and I'm a horrible person for saying my grandma died. And I'm just like, you know what? You're kind of a horrible person, because if you believed in God, you wouldn't believe the hocus pocus cult stuff that you're telling me, because you're saying if I say my grandma dies, she's going to die. Like, you're voodoo.
Yeah.
Check out a mirror. Because, talk to your pastor on Sunday. I'm pretty sure he'll tell you that's not how it works. So, and if you believe that, then you're believing something that's not in what you claim to believe on Sunday mornings.
Definitely.
It's frustrating. I mean, as I said, when I watch pro wrestling, God, there's not even good guys and bad guys anymore. I guess on AEW wrestling, there's a guy, Chris Jericho. He's a bad guy. He's a scumbag. I love him. In real life, I don't think that he goes around kicking kittens. So, but it's like, in real life, I'm like, he's off the clock. Leave him alone. Ask for an autograph and then give him $20. That's what I prefer when people see me.
Buy a T-shirt.
Buy a T-shirt, JonnyFairplay.com. You get a phone call like this with every purchase.
Well, I'll make sure you get a chance to plug everything that you're doing once we get towards the end of this show. Yeah, I was just curious because
I work them, man. It's not a problem.
One of the things that I just think is so interesting is because I remember just people were so frustrated and mad, and you talk about that when that moment happened. I think I heard people were throwing bricks through their TVs and stuff like that.
Yeah, people broke their televisions. Over 10 cases that I'm aware of on that.
Oh my gosh. How'd you find out about that?
People contact CBS. They were telling me, people would contact other people. I mean, sure, I would imagine a percentage of that is rumor and innuendo and folklore and urban myth and all that. But, I don't know. I've heard what I've heard, and that's it. I get it. So, I mean, my whole goal was to pull at the heartstrings of not only the people that I'm the remaining castaways that I'm playing the game with, but you, the viewer. Like, you the viewer were my patsy. So, like as much fun as I had, making Sandra Diaz Twine's life miserable, I wanted to make your life miserable too as a viewer. You had your hero Rupert, who we really didn't like. The only person that told you that we liked Rupert was Rupert and me. And the only person that told you that they hated me was me. I wasn't despised out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a pretty good storyteller. I was their entertainment. But if I'm the narrator and I'm telling you that they hate me, you, the viewer, sit back and go, they hate him.
Exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because you can tell if you're watching that season closely that everyone likes you, everyone wants to keep you around. There's a reason you finish in the top 3. And then when I've heard over the years that there are all these Survivor people from other seasons who all love you and want to hang out with you. And that's where I think people who haven't totally been informed, it just doesn't all add up.
Yeah. That's fine. I mean, as I said, I told the story I wanted to tell. So, as I said, my heroes are bad guys. I wanted to be a bad guy. I got to be a bad guy.
So why the name Jonny Fairplay? Where'd that come from?
Oh, a drug deal in Greensboro, North Carolina. I bought some weed, and I shared some with a friend, and I didn't want to cut one of the nuggets, so I gave him more than he should have gotten for the amount that he paid, and he said, "That's fair play, Jonny Fairplay."
Oh, wow.
Who knew? So then So then I saw a sign for, do you want to be a pro wrestler or manager or referee? You come to this wrestling school, you can pay $2,000, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, so I showed up and I was just like, yeah, I want to be a bad guy manager. And they were like, okay, well, the school's $2,000. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to be a bad guy manager. They're like, okay, well, what's your name? I'm like, Jonny Fairplay. And they're like, what's your gimmick? I'm like, I don't play fair. They're like, that's pretty good. So at the time, the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff Hardy, this was in the Carolina Indies, and so they were about to go to WWF at the time, and so there was a tag team, Rising Sun. It was two guys with masks, and actually kind of changed from town to town based on the two guys that were there. So I became the manager of Rising Sun to the tag team champions, so that I would cheat at, I'd come out there, I go, my name is Jonny Fairplay. I believe in good, clean sportsmanship, no cheating, calling, no chicanery, right down the middle. And then at the end of the match, I would cheat to make sure that the Rising Sun win, so that the Hardys couldn't take the belts to WWF. And people got so mad. They're just like, you said your name was Fairplay. And I'm like, holy moly. I'm like, this is amazing. So anyway, so I did the wrestling manager thing for a while, and then I moved to Portland, Oregon, and I ran my own wrestling promotion. I was the heel color commentator, and really honed in on the character Jonny Fairplay there. And then I moved to Los Angeles, and then I got asked to do Survivor, and so I just went in as Jonny Fairplay, So I thought, watching the show, I'm just like, I think Jonny Fairplay could be fun television, or at least fun for me and my friends.
Well, many of us thought it was great. There's a reason they brought you back. Were you upset that they didn't ask you on to All Stars?
Yes and no. I don't know if I was physically ready to go right back. However, mentally, I think it would have been pretty amazing, because I felt like Rob C, and I could be totally wrong. I have no clue, but I felt watching it that Rob C seemed a little starstruck with some of the bigger characters out there, and you see it, on season 40 now, with Boston Rob and Ben. Ben's a grown man, and he's just like, oh gee shucks, Boston Rob asked me something, and I got to tell him. And so I get all that, but for me, my arrogance knows no bounds. And so, if I had showed up with, the heavy hitters and the greatest players in the history of Survivor, I would have felt like, hey, you guys bow down to me. I don't I've seen what you can do, and I think I'm better. So yeah, so I don't know. It would have been interesting, but the reason I was told was, because they were filming while my season was still airing, and they hadn't even gotten to the dead grandmother yet.
Oh,
and so they were still worried how I would be received as a character. They had no, as I said, it was foreign territory. No one had ever purposely been a bad guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they were just like, if this thing turns into a nightmare for us, because when I got rid of Rupert, the world collectively said, I'm not watching Survivor anymore. I hate Jonny Fairplay. I'm done. And the next week I do the Grandma Lie, and we're the number one show in the world. But I thought that they weren't going to watch anymore. Why were they watching? But they were watching because they wanted to see me lose. And I'm sitting there as the person that did all this. I'm like, well, keep watching, because I'm on every episode, I promise.
It's why the Patriots are great for the NFL, in my opinion.
There you go. There you go. So
Yeah.
it's okay to sit one out every now and then, I assure you. So, but it's so I think they made a bad call not asking me, but I think there was worry, and I think there was cause for worry. So I get it. But at the same time, physically, I was not ready to go do back-to-back seasons, because I saw Rupert right after he gotten back from his second one, and he looked horrific. I mean, like, I was like, Rupert, you look bad. He goes, I feel bad. He goes, so I mean, he was
feel bad.
Oh, hi, stupid Rupert. But no, he looked like a shrunken man. He was very odd looking when he returned from his back-to-back season. So, so do I wish I had been asked, and then, we could have decided what the right move would have been? Sure. But, everything happens for a reason. I'm not one that sits there and cries. So it is what it is.
What happened with Survivor Micronesia? You were on one episode. People forget you were on that season. I think if you were able to stick around, you would have gone very deep, because I think fans versus favorites in general is just very stacked in favor of the favorites. Yeah.
No. If I had stayed, first boot would have been Parvati. And I think, many see. I don't think Parvati would ever go back again if I had sent her home first boot.
Yeah.
So there's that. 8 days before I left, I was on stage at the Fox Reality Awards. Bonaducci threw me over his head, face first, knocked out my front 4 teeth, and shattered my jaw. So I had 4 root canals over the course of 2 days. I had 7 hours of surgery the first night, and then 8 hours of surgery the next day. And my jaw was wired. And I was in a ton of pain, not to mention trauma. And, it's like I'd never broken a bone or anything. So they're asking me, can you still do this? And I'm just like, I'm not going to let this guy ruin, what I've waited so long for. And, and plus they weren't bringing back people often. So, I thought this was my one and only chance. So I get out there. And they're just like, you can't have any pain meds. I'm like, I understand. And that's a huge misconception that people have about me. They're just like, Jonny wanted his pills. Well, Johnny's not Jonny enjoyed many vices when Jonny was a bad person. Pills was never one of them. I mean, like, I have many, many celebrity friends that offered me pills on a nightly basis, and I didn't take them. So, so if I'm refusing pills from some of the biggest celebrities you've ever seen in your entire life, ever, like, if I'm telling them no, then, why am I trying to get pilled out on an island? So, strike that one from the record. So, but I was in pain, and, and I needed pills at the time, and I took them, and they're just like, what are you going to do? When I'm just going to play. I'm like, I'm not going to not take pills until we start. I'm like, that's just stupid. I had 4 root canals, 15 hours of surgery over 2 days. This all began 8 days ago. And, and my jaw is shattered, literally shattered. And so the game started, and I'm just like, okay, here we go. And they gave me 2 mouth guards that I could wear during challenge. I had a white mouth guard and a bright pink mouth guard. And they said I could use them during challenges. And then the game started. Jeff said, there's 2 idols over there on that beach. And we go. And everyone's, looking around like mad. And I'm just like, it's always obvious. And so I see the 2 boats. And I go and I grab the idol. And Jeff goes, no, that's the fans' boat. Yours is on the favorites boat, which the idols were identical. I call BS. They should have just given me credit, and I would have stayed out there, and I probably would have won. But having to go to the other boat, Yao Man saw me going for it, runs up behind me, shoves my face into the side of the boat, And that's it. That was game over right there, that moment.
So you were in too much pain to continue?
Yeah, I was dying.
Why didn't did they ever tell you why they didn't communicate that on the show?
That was my choice, not theirs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So no. So I went to do a confessional. I was just like, look, I'm dying. And they were like, well, you're not getting pills. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just letting you know that I could not be in any more pain, and this is horrific. And so production actually laughed at me, and they're like, what are you gonna say? Bonaducci knocked your teeth out, and that's why you're quitting? And I'm just like, no. I'm like, I'm just gonna say I'm quitting for love. My girlfriend's pregnant at the time, and I just say I want to go. I want to, and they're like, who's gonna believe that? I'm like, the same idiots that believe the dead grandmother lie. If I say it, people believe it. Sorry.
And unfortunately, you haven't been on the show since. Tell me what you think of this.
Shoot.
It always seemed like Jeff and you and Jeff had some sort. Jeff didn't like you, and
Sure.
he used the whole. Ever since then, he said, "Oh, Fairplay quit," even though they voted you out. And I think he's been able to use that as the whole reason to not have you back.
Okay. Is that your theory?
Yeah.
Okay. I was called for Heroes Villains.
What happened? They put Russell on instead?
No. The cast that I was on included Richard Hatch. And Richard couldn't get his passport. And so the cast that did not include Richard Hatch also did not include me. They have they have like boards on the wall with people's, they're just like, if we have these 10 people here, here's their 10 counterparts. And so whatever counterparts whichever one that had me and Hatch, the one that didn't have Hatch didn't have me. So that's the story I was told. Whether that's true or not, whether Jeff fought behind the scenes for me not to be there, I don't know. I mean, Jeff had every reason not to like me. I got into a fight with his brother at the Vanuatu finale. I was a drunken mess at plenty of Survivor functions. So I understand all of it.
Makes sense. All right, Jonny. I think that's pretty much all I have for you in terms of your Survivor experience. Let's talk about your life after Survivor. A lot of people might not know that your life has really changed over the last few years. You became a Christian. Have you gotten baptized too?
Yeah. I was baptized on Easter 3 years ago. I mean, I share the big holidays with JC, and so I figured it was only appropriate.
So, how did you get saved? How did the gospel click with you, and what was your life like before, and how did it finally click for you?
I mean, in the aftermath of Survivor, I mean, I was living in Los Angeles, and I was wild. I mean, I was at the hottest clubs in the world, and I was hanging out with some of the biggest celebrities. And, as you may or may not know or guess, most celebrities do drugs. So, I was doing plenty of drugs. I was drinking every night and every day. And, I'd probably go to bed at 9 a.m., maybe 10 a.m., typically not alone. And, I'd wake up at, probably 6 p.m. I was missing calls for other opportunities. I mean, one of the things that haunts me, because I'm usually one to, whatever happens. So, but I got a call they wanted me as a voice for Star Wars, the Clone Wars animated series. And I missed it because, I did drugs till 9 a.m. and woke up at 7 o'clock that night.
Man.
So, but that was, I once again, no regrets. I regret the Star Wars thing, but my life in general at that time, no regrets. I mean, I could have died, probably should have died, didn't die multiple times, and it was what it was. So that was the life of a celebrity, in the early 2000s. So that's the life of the celebrity in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I mean, that's how that game is can be played. So, fast forward to 2008, I guess. I was tired of the scene. I kind of saw a fakeness and a transparency to a lot of the celebrity friends and trust fund kid friends and all that I had. And, I just grew tired of it and knew there had to be a little more to life. So I moved back home to Danville, Virginia, just to kind of reassess. And I was doing appearances still, most weekends and having fun and partying and all that. But, most of the weekdays were, kind of based in normalcy. And it wasn't until, I don't know, I guess at this point, like 4 years ago now, I decided, I'm just like, hey, despite and in spite of what most people think about Jonny Fairplay, I like the guy. And I think that guy could and can do some pretty awesome things. And I think other people could benefit from the opportunities that I have before me. So I decided to make the best Jonny Fairplay that I could. So my next door neighbor at the time was a pastor at a church in Danville, Virginia, First Baptist Church. Young guy, just 30 years old. And so he's like, hey, I'm a pastor at this church. Come by. And so I went, and I can tell you then, and I can tell you now, they're both pretty comparable. When I can leave church every Sunday, and I can't tell you the verses that were read. I can't tell you 100% the lesson that was taught, but I can tell you that when I leave church, I want to go do something good that week, and that's it for me. So so we have on the physical side, I was running 3 to 10 miles a day, physically trying to make myself better. And then on the spiritual side, I'm going to church every Sunday, going to Bible study on Monday nights, and then going to the weekly dinners on Wednesdays. And so, you can't help. But I mean, I guess you could go to a crappy church. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if all churches were awesome, there would only be 4, right? So
yeah.
There's obviously bad churches, but
yeah.
I chose one that worked for me and was providing what my life needed at the time. So furthering that, I'm just like, okay, well, I'm becoming spiritually better. I'm becoming physically better. Mentally. It's probably easier to run 10 miles and not smoke cigarettes. So let's stop smoking cigarettes. So, it's also probably easier to run in the morning without a hangover. So let's stop drinking.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I immensely, So anyway, so I just decided to stop doing those things, not because I didn't see it like at that point. I didn't see there being any problem in the past, sure, but at that point in my life, there it wasn't this is horrific. I've got to change things fast, or I'm going to die tomorrow. I was living a pretty honest, good life. I just wanted to live the best life possible, and I felt that I needed to experiment and with everything that made up who I am. and bringing God and Jesus into my life, I felt just made me a stronger, better person.
That's awesome. So it provided a lot of peace and joy and helped you break free from bad habits.
I think so. So, and as I said, like, my main thing, like, I go to church because, I feel it provides a strong foundation for not only myself, but my daughters and my girlfriend, to, like, as I said, when I leave, I feel like I should do something good that week. And if I don't go to church, I don't feel like that. So, I mean, like, it might hit me to go do something good, but I can tell you when I do go to church, which is pretty much every Sunday, I do say, what good can I do this week?
Question I had for you, and some of the listeners were wondering, do you have a favorite Bible verse or piece of scripture that is connected with you in this time?
I mean, when I was a little kid, I always loved John 3:16, and I just that's my go-to, and I think it's one of the most popular verses for a reason, and I think it kind of tells the story of what Jesus is and has done for all of us. So that's, for me personally, that's just I like the church that I went that my next door neighbor was a pastor of. I remember being 9 years old, going to a puppet show at Vacation Bible School there, and so to hearken memories like that of being, quote unquote innocent. I'm sure I was a mini scumbag at age 9. But so like I remember just as a kid at a different church, just remember back. So for me, I just go to, for me the old go-to. But it's my pastor that brought me on this journey. He actually he has a son, Josiah, who's 2. And his wife was pregnant with twin boys coming, and so he actually moved to South Carolina to be closer to their families. And so before he left, I mean, like, because my pastor and I, we would meet once a week. We'd walk about a mile together every week at a weekday for lunch or whatever. And so before he left, I was just like. He's like, what are you thinking? And I'm just like, I'm thinking that this is going to suck without you at church because, you were kind of the catalyst for all this. I'm like, what are you thinking for me? Because you've been pretty good with your advice thus far. And he was like, well, if you repeat this, I'll deny it. He goes, but this is going to be a long process. He goes, I would imagine that they're mad at me because I'm leaving, but he goes, I felt that I've done all I can for this church for 8 years. And so he was like, he goes, I think that my replacement will be probably much older, and that's probably not what you're looking for. Also, you're probably looking at a year of interim pastors in the year search. He was like, there's a church, West Main Baptist Church, right down the street. They just got through going through all of this. They chose a new pastor a couple of months ago. He's very comparable to me. He's 30 years old, and I was like, all right, maybe I should give this guy a call. And so I checked out his service. I walked in. I was just like, I just shook his hand and go, Jonny Fairplay, and then like you think that the devil incarnate had just walked, because he was familiar with who I was, and he was just like like, wow, what is he doing here? And so we had coffee and did the walk the next week, and I explained where I was at, and he explained his deal, and he was just like. He goes, so John told you not to tell him? I was like, yes. And he was just like, I love it. So, and it was a good fit. So, like what, last year, my old pastor, John, was at my house for the Super Bowl. This year, my new pastor, Drew, was at my house for the Super Bowl. So, and then this past Saturday, I'm at Ballad Brewing, playing everyone's just like, they're like, is it tough for you to do these live shows at breweries? I'm like, I'm at a brewery 2-3 times a week, 3 miles from my house, because they have 5 pinball machines down there. And guess what? I look for any advantage possible. If you're sitting there 4 beers deep and your reflexes aren't what mine are, I win. So I have no trouble. I mean, it's just like, is it difficult? I'm just like, I see people drunk and I see people say stupid stuff, and I see people immensely less attractive than they were when they walked into that place. So no, I have no trouble not drinking. So I know how good looking I look, and I know that I maintain that by not drinking. So, and I know how good I am at pinball, and I know that I can maintain that by not drinking. So, so that's not a problem. But yeah, so this past Saturday, I was with my pastor playing pinball at a local brewery.
Cool. So would you say one of the main things for you in terms of having this change in your life is the community aspect that a church provides? Or mentorship from a pastor?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say it's the collection of both of those things, if not more. I mean, we have big brothers, big sisters here, and they do like a once a year build a playground thing, and so I'll volunteer for that. I've raised thousands of dollars for Give Kids the World Village through Hearts of Reality with Leslie Neese. I've gone down the beginning of my journey. Through all this, it started, going down to visit Leslie Neese from Survivor China, at a fundraiser she was doing for Give Kids the World Village through Hearts of Reality at her local spin class, thing. And so, I think that I'm very fortunate to be in the position that I am and to have the ability to help others. Why not take advantage? Why be stingy with those gifts? I did the other side. I enjoyed it. Once again, 0 regrets. So I have many stories that are amazing. However, that's not what I want for my life right now. I have a 12-year-old daughter. I have a soon-to-be 3-year-old daughter. And, and I think that there's a different and better life that I can provide doing it this way. And I do need God in my life to guide me along that journey.
That's awesome, man. You mentioned Leslie. I was going to ask, have there been other, including Leslie, you can talk about her, have there been former Survivor contestants, people in the community who have also been helpful to you during this journey that you've been on?
I don't know. I mean, getting back to Thunder D, the guy that did the Dead Grandmother Lie with me, he doesn't believe in people that believe in God. So, since I started my journey, he won't be my friend. So that sucks. I mean, we used to talk every day for, 9 years straight. And, we don't talk anymore. So because he thinks that, I'm being brainwashed and that the church is using me. And I've seen, I've been to the churches that have cult-like feels. I get it. So that's not I go to a very simple, plain church that it's 1 hour. We sing about 4 hymns. We hear 2 scriptures. We pray about 6 times, and we have the lesson by way of sermon. I don't feel I'm getting brainwashed. I'm pretty positive. So we don't have the band, we don't have the iPads that, it's, I don't know. I think it's a pretty simple, straightforward message and with zero, manipulation. So, but that's just what I want in my life. And that's what I get. So, but, Thunder D has the perception of, get rid of your friends, blah, blah, blah. Like, I know that what I never understood is, once I started this journey, I never told Thunder D, hey, you should go to church. Hey, you should do, I never said anything. I just said, I'm going. And when we talk, we don't have to talk about it. So I don't get it. But that's where some people, there's people on both sides of the fence, and they're extremely, firm in their beliefs on both sides. So I get it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's been difficult.
Yeah, it sucks. But, it is what it is. I can't, as I said, I think this whole thing kind of caught Thunder D by storm. It's just like, okay, you're running 10 miles, you're not drinking, you're going to church, you're being brainwashed. I don't think he saw, it's just like, no, these are just all conscious decisions just to be a better person.
Just a few more questions I have for you. One is, what do you talk about when you speak at churches? And my follow-up to that would be, what would you say to someone who is currently living a lifestyle that you were living previously and would like to make some positive changes in their life? What would you encourage them to do?
As far as what I say during my testimonials, you just got it. I mean, that's pretty much it. So, spoiler alert. I do finish with a pretty awesome letter from my previous pastor that I read. So, as far as someone in my position, you put the caveat at the end that they're looking to, if they're actually if someone was living the way I was living and is not looking for change, leave them be. I mean, it's not your decision how other people live their lives. So that's number one. Stay in your own lane. But if they are looking, I say, I don't tell anyone what to do, and I don't I've had friends that are just like, hey, I see what's working for you, and can you help me? And I'm like, kind of, sorta, I can. I can tell you that, are you doing anything athletic? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, I'd start with walking. I wouldn't try running 10 miles. I don't think it's going to work out for you. So try walking around your block, so it's physical there, stop smoking, it's not easy, but, don't do it. And that's step one. If you're drinking every night, maybe drink every other night. Give that a shot. So, but as far as church, I'm a firm believer in it's like when you go to Foot Locker to get a pair of tennis shoes, try on several pairs. So, I mean, some people, they like the band, and they like the iPads, and they like the video screens on the wall. That's not what I'm looking. I don't need if you gotta put all that dressing and stuff on your steak, maybe you don't like steak. So for me, just give me a piece of bologna and be honest with what it is. I love bologna. I think it's great. Fry it up, it tastes wonderful. So, but just make sure that what you're find what you're looking for, and don't try one church. Don't try to I live in there's more churches per capita than any other city in the nation in Danville, Virginia. We have 200 churches, and we're a very small. I mean, very, very small place. So try 4 or 5 churches, and see what fits. And if it doesn't fit, try 4 or 5 more. If that doesn't, try a few different options, and whatever works, works. So, but yeah, don't base it on one. It's just like, I went to church, I hated it. They're very different. I promise.
So, Johnny, you mentioned a little bit in terms of your approach when it comes to talking to people who might be wanting to make a lifestyle change, and you let them approach you. In terms of when you were living differently, if Christians talked to you, did people talk to you in an aggressive way to turn you off? And it was easier when you were able to pursue it on your own a little more?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said, I just put the information out there. I don't push you and say, here's the information. So, if you follow me on social media, I'm probably going to post a picture from Sunday of me and my daughters at church, and it's just like, hey, it was a great service. It's 1 hour. If you want to try it, I'll be there next Sunday. Super easy. That's it. So, but, I don't do the, oh man, you really need to hear this story about, and no, like as I said, for someone like me, like, it's just like, thanks, but I got Netflix. I'm good. Thanks, bro.
Gotcha.
So yeah. So that's just me. So, like, as I said, like Leslie Neese, I don't feel she was pushy or aggressive. She was just like, hey, despite what you might think, I used to have fun too. I still have fun, and God has made my life better. And I'm like, cool. So, and that, I didn't feel that was aggressive. I didn't feel that was pushy. I'm just like, hey, you know what? Leslie's a pretty cool chick. If God has changed her life and made her this much happier, there might be something to it. And that's it.
That's really cool, man. So if you have any other thoughts you wanted to share just about your faith and your lifestyle changes, I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, I have a couple more questions for you before we go.
Go ahead.
All right. So we'll go back into Survivor and reality TV here. If you were to play again, this is another question I got from the listeners. How would you play?
I don't know. I guess we'll have to watch and see.
All right, there we go. What do you think of Winners at War so far?
I think it's good. I think it's the best U.S. season since David versus Goliath thus far. So, but I think Australian All-Stars is better than that.
I haven't checked out the Australian version yet.
Yeah, I'm watching, and their gameplay, physicality-wise, is times 100, and actually strategy-wise, I'm seeing the greatest players to ever play the game, and I think they blow us out of the water. So,
wow.
Yeah.
All right, people are gonna have to check that out. The other thing I was wondering was, do you, and you've been in the reality TV circles for such a long time, you ever get contacted to go on the challenge on MTV?
No, that's not my wheelhouse. So that's so physical. I'm not that guy. I mean, I'm 145 pounds right now. So yeah, that's not my game. So yeah, no, I mean, I would expect a Legends season sooner than later, a Heroes Villains 2 sooner than later. In the top 15 shows on cable or on network television, Survivor is by far the cheapest to make. They're not getting rid of it anytime soon. It's not going anywhere. So I expect it to hit, we're on season 40. I expect it to hit 50, why not? And that's 5 years away. So I think 50 will be something big. But at this point, I think they're doing every other season. They're bringing back people. Is the next one going to be Second Chance? Maybe. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's a theme that includes me. So, but as far as am I on the bad list? Am I on the good list? I don't think I'm on the bad list.
I think you being in that Survivor at 40 promo at the beginning, I think that was a good sign.
Yeah. I mean, they wouldn't show me if I was on the bad list. They wouldn't have given me, once again, 1 minute and 7 seconds. It's more than anyone else got.
Do you watch any of these other shows like The Challenge on MTV?
My girlfriend's big into The Challenge. I dated Tanya from The Real World, Katie from Road Rules, so like Trishelle from Real World. So, I'm friends with people that have been on it. I was actually going to watch this past season, and what did I watch instead? I think I watched The Bachelorette instead. I'd never seen that. And, that was a mistake. So we'll see. I mean, but there appears to be so much drama behind the scenes or going into the season. Like, it doesn't really feel like you can just jump right in and know everything going on. I know, and I'm friends with Cara Maria.
Oh.
And apparently, if you like Cara Maria, you can't like Johnny Bananas. Well, I thought I was friends with Johnny Bananas, so I don't. There's just this division and hate and so much. So I don't know if I have the time to invite all that into my life. As I said, I just added Australian Survivor All-Stars to my plate. That's on 3 times a week. They're 90-minute episodes. So I think my plate is full. I mean, I'm doing live Survivor shows around the country. March 4th, I'm going to be in Durham, North Carolina, Dirty Bull Brewing. I have Elaine from last season, the Busty Can of Biscuits. I have Zane Knight, Jane Bright. I have Molly from Island of the Idols. I have Dr. Allison from David versus Goliath. I have Jeremiah from Survivor Cagayan. Who else? I feel like there's one more. Oh, Church Boy Keith from Edge of Extinction. So that's happening March 4th in Durham, North Carolina, at Dirty Bull Brewing. Tickets available at SurvivorTix.com. That's SurvivorTix.com. And then March 11th, for my birthday, I'll be in Long Branch, New Jersey at the Wine Loft, and I will be joined by Michelle Fitzgerald, who is currently playing Survivor Winners at War. And as of right now, surprise castaways, 3 additional winners will be joining me at the March 11th show. So 4 winners on hand watching Survivor with Jonny Fairplay, followed by the live podcast. And that's March 11th in Long Branch, New Jersey. Tickets also available at SurvivorTix.com. That's SurvivorTix.com. And links for everything, including my T-shirts, which, as we mentioned earlier, with every T-shirt purchase, you get a phone call from me thanking you for your purchase. It's the best, cheapest way to support the podcast. Well, actually, I take it back. Patreon's the best and cheapest. It's $10. So, but the second best and cheapest, get a T-shirt, and that's at JohnnyFairplay.com. But links to everything, tickets, podcast, YouTube, everything, is at SurvivorNSFW.com. That's Survivor Not Safe for Work, SurvivorNSFW.com. Go there. Try the Patreon, be a part of our weekly Q&A. You get to be a part of the secret Facebook group, which, as I said, our favorite podcast each and every week. Last night we went about 80 minutes, and I tell insane stories, I assure you, very insane stories, things I should not say in public. And that's every week on the Patreon side of things, $10. And then, come see me at a live show. I believe we're going to be adding Pittsburgh coming up. It's going to be a live show also this season, and maybe Los Angeles. So last week was Cincinnati. So it's nonstop for Jonny Fairplay, and then I just added. I'm doing a half marathon in April in the Outer Banks.
Wow. Well, you got a good schedule there. Seems like you'll have a fun spring. I'm glad you got the plug in there. Is there anything else you want to say or add or promote while you're here, social media?
No, I'm at Jonny Fairplay on everything. No H in Johnny, JONNY, FAIRPLAY. So that's it. So, for some people that listen to this, You might be like, wow, I never knew this about Jonny. Others, you might be like, wow, what an arrogant, horrible person. So that's cool. I mean, like, I'm not here to woo you. I'm not here to change your mind. So I'm just here to be honest and, say how I feel and what works in my life. So, and live your life. And, if you want to make the best you possible, give it a shot. If you don't. I'm easy, brother.
As Christians, it's not about winning man's approval.
Yeah. So there you go.
There you go. Jonny, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. So you never know what you're going to get with Jonny Fairplay.
Great job today by Jonny Fairplay. What a treat it was to have him on the podcast today. If you like what you heard on the podcast, go ahead and check out some of the other episodes that we have uploaded. I'm sure there were plenty of new listeners today. Last week, Aaron Levitt and I previewed the Survivor Winners at War Season 40. We previewed the season, made our winner picks, talked about what 20 years of Survivor means in the grand scheme of all these things in reality TV. You're going to want to check that one out. I'm also going to have a former Survivor contestant joining me later this season. It's a mystery for now, but I will reveal once we have a date locked in for the interview, but it's going to be a good one. I've interviewed Leslie Neese in the past, one of Jonny's friends who he talked about today. So plenty of great content in this podcast feed and plenty more to come. I will be talking baseball and college basketball later this week. It's hard to believe we're so close to March Madness and to Major League Baseball season starting up. We're going to have a lot of content coming out in March. So right now it's just the calm before the storm. If you like what you heard on the podcast and you'd like to hear more, subscribe to the Jack Vita Show on iTunes, Spotify, wherever it is that you are listening to this podcast. Hit subscribe, hit follow. It means a lot for the podcast. Leave a 5-star rating and a review on iTunes. That will do us a lot of good in getting this podcast out to more people, expanding the audience, and I greatly appreciate it. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jack Vita Show. That's the name of this podcast. Very easy to find me. I love interacting. I love hearing your thoughts on the podcast. What do you guys think about the dead grandma lie and the story behind all of it? What do you think about Jonny and the lifestyle changes that he's made? Tweet at me, tweet at him, follow me. I look forward to hearing what you all have to say. As I mentioned, there will be plenty coming up on the podcast, college basketball and baseball later this week. Until next time, I'm Jack Vita. Bring in the dancing lobsters.